audible. So today's topic is going to be generative AI and cloud, transforming enterprises in the digital age. So before we actually step into the actual topic and discussion, what is Gen AI? Okay, Gen AI is basically artificial intelligence. Is capable of generating text, video, images, etc., based on some generative model. Basically, because we give some prompt, and then it actually gives that response. It's a general Wikipedia definition, right? Um, how it is actually going to help when it is actually there on cloud. So Gen AI's role in cloud is actually going to be multifaceted. Okay, I'll take two broad themes. One, from the cloud computing and cloud operation perspective, it can enhance the efficiency and scalability. Okay, that's from the cloud operations perspective. Second is from the business use cases. So we can do a lot of innovation, okay, based on different industry sectors that we are actually coming from. So with this, um, what is the potential that we are actually seeing for Gen AI in future? So I think as per Gartner, in 2023, the spending for Gen AI in cloud was about 8%, and it is expected to grow up to 35% in 2027. And the market cap is actually going to be about $300 billion, right? So with this, I will actually ask our panel members to give a quick introduction, then we'll get into the questions. Over to you, Aslan.
Hello, I'm Azlan. I'm the CEO of Awantech, a local public listed firm.
Assalamualaikum. Good morning. My name is Sazul. I'm the Head of Digital Innovation for CAF Investment Bank and also the Designate CTO for CAF Digital Bank.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Gaurav. I am CIO of MMC Ports. We have 5 ports in Malaysia doing cargo operations on the container ships and non-container ships.
Awesome. Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Michael. I head the technical team in Google Malaysia. And we were just discussing we should have put up nicer photos if we knew they're going to blow up our faces so big. But glad to be here. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. So the questions are not going to be very difficult, right? Okay, so what are the primary impacts of generative AI and cloud computing on enterprise digital transformation in today's landscape? Maybe can I start with Michael?
Yeah. So generative AI is the buzzword right now. In Google, we see it as the third major tech wave. And trust me, it consumes a lot of data center resources. Google has been upgrading all our data centers around the world with GPUs, with TPUs. But if you look at it, it's a third wave. The second wave is a mobile wave, which we all agree has changed our lives. The first wave is the internet. So what is it that generative AI seeks to solve, right? If you think about it, if an AI can understand your language and can respond to you in the same, it's a breakthrough. It can make information far more accessible to anyone than ever before. I can be blind, and yet I can get information from the AI. AI can retrieve it for me. I can be a code illiterate. I don't know how to code, but I can get an AI to code now. So the fundamental problem that generative AI intends to solve are two things. Make computing far more accessible to everybody and make information far more accessible to everybody than ever before. So if you start thinking about that, AI is actually chasing after a higher level intelligence, right? It's human intelligence. AI is trying to mimic human intelligence. So whatever that we can process language-wise, communication-wise, that's what AI will try to do. So it has a huge application in every industry, every business, and anything that deals with languages.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, thank you for the introduction. Mr. Sazul, you want to add anything on top of it?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I mean, let me just explain the layman term, right? I think it's even though I'm working in IT, but I think I mean I would always like to relate myself with the experience and what we actually have, right? And I think I started working back then in the early 2000s, so now you know how old I am, right? And I think it's an evolution. you start, when I was start working in the local bank, you know, at that time there were no messenger, right? And I remember at that time I tried to introduce the messenger, right? And my boss actually kind of pissed off. They said that, hey, what are the things you are doing? You are not introducing MIRC. If you guys know MIRC, then you are all at my age, right? What you guys are doing, chatting in the office, whatnot, right? So at that stage, you know, early 2000, introducing something new at that stage is actually something which is like prohibited, kind of. I kind of understand because, you know, that's actually when people talk bad about the boss behind them, you know, over the chat. And that's also some of us also found our soulmate, right, chatting over there. But, you know, you go moving forward, you see chatting, all those knowledge sharing is becoming a norm, right? Similarly with this Gen AI, right? I mean, the impact is that, you know, it's making people look smarter. People is getting smarter, right? If before this, you know, before this, we depend a lot on people who actually have knowledge about the company, about the domain, and all the knowledge is within their head. Right now, that's no longer the case. You got people actually, you know, can actually come in, maybe not actually be that long in the company, but they can actually contribute very, very early, right? All with the help of Gen AI, right? Of course, having said that, you know, you guys have used ChatGPT, I know, but always put, I mean, the one I'm talking about is more about having your Gen AI within your own organization. Right? We talk about Open AI right now, right? So using Open AI within your own organization, the impact will actually be on the culture and also on the people, less reliant on the I would actually say, you know, people actually have long seniority in the company because they have all the information in their head. It's no longer the case. It's more about people knowing how to use this information. And it all also depends on the company, the level of maturity of the company. You know, if the company doesn't actually have documentation available, then that's actually going to be a hurdle, right? And if the company actually already mature and have all the information, you know, within their own ecosystem, whether it's actually file sharing or whether it's actually software as a service where you actually put all your files, that will actually be an advantage for them. So that would be my answer. A bit long.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Maybe Ganesh, I could add something. So, I mean, as I think Michael and Sazlin here mentioned about, I think any AI or any digital transformation at the very onset, why do we do it, right? I mean, every organization, if we do anything, the very first point is why do it? And I think it boils down to the key principles that we support business with digital transformation and AI being one part of that digital transformation journey, which is to either generate revenue or reduce cost, right? Or improve customer experience, largely around these agendas. Also, just to mention, I think if you see AI so far in last few years, it has been there. It was largely on the predictive use of data and how predictions could be made and prescriptions could be made. With Gen AI, what's really is happening is it's talking about beyond data and talking about different types of data which was available but not so much leveraged earlier, as in images or video and audios. And as Michael was also mentioning, you know, it made it democratized the entire process of leveraging information out there, which I think Gen AI has brought in, Ganesh, big time.
Yeah, I think you touched upon revenue part of it and also the data part of it. We'll come to that later. The next question is, how can businesses utilize generative AI to optimize their cloud strategies, and what challenges might they encounter during implementation? Again, can I actually ask some questions from Michael from a technical perspective?
All right. So the question was, how do we use Gen AI to
Optimize their cloud strategy.
cloud strategies, right? Maybe I'll share with you what we are doing in Google Cloud. And then maybe it's easier to relate, right? Today we have released generative AI that is trained on Google Cloud technical architectures, technical best practices. So for any customers that use Google Cloud, you actually have an expert assistant in a chat bot form to help you with whether you want to code from SQL to Postgres, whether you want to detect what is a threat that is happening in your cloud, or you want to get insights from your data that you store in a data warehouse. So that's how generative AI is making things a bit faster and better for cloud users. The other piece that is really crucial is because generative AI in cloud understands your bill, understands what is being consumed and how much is being paid, it can actually make recommendations on optimizations. It can make recommendations on which resources that's left idle that you should turn off, or which resources that you should move to make things a little bit better. So that is sort of like the bar that is set in generative AI in cloud environments.
Yeah, one is on the optimization that you talked about.
Automations, insights, having scanned through thousands of security logs to help you pinpoint where the attack is coming from.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in
From a
every
security
front-
point of view as well, we can
That's right.
actually do a lot of automation and dashboarding.
Exactly. Security, data, application coding, best practices, even money.
Yeah, of course, that is what will actually
That's right.
customer are interested. Okay, Mr. Aslan, do you want to add anything for this?
Yeah, I think Michael has said most of it, and I do believe that the main part or the main gist of AI is how does it improve the experience, whether it's a customer experience, whether the IT operations experience, the experience of the users. Yeah, and with the advent of LLMs, the advent of cloud computing, it helps for AI to analyze a bigger, I think, a volume of data in terms of the usage and in terms of the pattern, for it to actually predict or even suggest what are the optimal resource allocations that should be put in for your infrastructure with regards to the question. So I think that's the gist of AI. It has to actually provide, it has to give a beneficiary in terms of whether from operations perspective or from a cost perspective for a particular business. Yeah. Challenges you might actually have as what you already are aware of. Whether you have actually enough data for it to actually analyze, whether the training data is actually accurate. And the data might have some algorithm bias where it will actually lead to a different model, to an erroneous model that actually might not, you might not get the outcome that you expect. So I think in the summary of that is it needs to actually enhance the experience, whether your customer's experience or your internal operations experience, and it needs to help the business to be more profitable. It needs to help the business to be more efficient. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You touched upon the experience, so we'll go to the customer experience part of it. How do generative AI and cloud computing impact customer experience and service delivery across various sectors, healthcare, finance, retail, etc.? Mr. Sazul?
Sure. So I will take from the finance sector perspective, right? If you look as of today, a lot of initiative of Gen AI, it's actually mainly focused in the internal improvement or internal operational efficiency, right? At the moment, right? Before it goes to the external, to the customers, to the public, to be able to enjoy that. I think finance industry is still taking the conservative approach, but it's I don't think so that it's going to be that way for such a long time, because now if you're talking about Malaysia, then the digital banks are getting there, right? And that will actually push the not to say traditional banks, but the existing banks to actually push the envelope further and go and explore into this Gen AI, and make it part of their solution for the customers. Having said that, in the finance sector, in terms of Gen AI, it's traditionally going to be used in, of course, in the internal knowledge-based management. All those reports that we have, regulatory guides, and even, if you want to go to extend to functional documents, business requirement documents that you have, right? So those would actually be the input for the LLM or for the Gen AI, will be the use case for the Gen AI. We are also seeing more in terms of customer servicing. So that will actually touch customers a bit, but more for internally. Example, you have more CRM systems right now. You're talking about SaaS CRM systems, of course. That's actually using Gen AI to actually summarize the communication with the customers coming in from emails or even transcript of calls. And Gen AI helps to actually summarize the communication, giving a summary of what's actually the issues all about, putting in as well the trend analysis or the sentiment analysis, of the customer. From the development perspective and IT perspective, I think Michael actually has touched it. In terms of coding, internal developers are using Gen AI also to help in the coding, debugging as well. And in terms of security, threat hunting is something that Gen AI is actually involved. Additionally, very important for the bank also is actually the transaction monitoring. So this is something that maybe customers not realize that, but as a bank, we always have to monitor the transaction due to the AML, Anti-Money Laundering and Terrorism Financing Act, right? That is actually enforced, right? So what does it mean is actually we have, trillions of transaction data that we need to actually monitor, and also we need to actually assess, and using Gen AI to actually help us to actually find and identify suspicious transactions involving suspicious individuals or corporations. So from financial sector, that will actually be the use case at the moment.
Yeah, okay, you have covered a lot of things, and starting with a conservative approach, okay, I think you have actually covered all of them. From a different domain perspective, ports, MMC ports perspective, Gaurav, you want to actually add anything here?
Right. So Ganesh, as we all know, Gen AI or any AI for that matter is going to touch every industry, and there are use cases possible which may or may not have been explored yet. I think it is still into the initial stages. But having said that, from the ports also, there could be use cases which can add value. I think one aspect of Gen AI is technically what is known as the attention, which basically allows the Gen AI to track and make comparisons between different data set, image set, and XYZ. So I think for the ports, one use case could be, just to give you a small brief, container ports are about where you get hundreds and thousands of these container metal boxes for export, import, and transit, right? And now all these boxes has cargo which is worth millions, and there's a cost of all that. And if there is a damage to the container or the cargo, there are huge legal and insurance implications. Using Gen AI, just thinking on the spot, the images of these containers as they come into the port facility, that can be checked, and then compared with what the container should be like and to what it is received. And on the other waterfront, when it leaves the port facility onto a ship, then also an image can be taken. I think a Gen AI could possibly play a role in taking these container images and checking for damages to the cargo and containers.
Okay, thank you. So we heard from finance and from ports. From a technology perspective, Michael, you want to add how it is actually going to help the customers?
Customer experience.
Customer
right?
experience.
Yeah. I think I will add on to what Sazul has shared about finance. I imagine a world where I have a personal CFO serving me through my banking app. And that personal CFO is able to recommend show me specific spending trends through my bank accounts, through my credit cards. Today you have that. But what if it can nudge me in a certain direction? Hey, you're looking at 20% lower spending than your peers in this month. What would you like to do with that 20% extra money that you have? What if it could recommend, hey, there's an investment portfolio from KAF, why not? So that is the future of customer experience that we see in AI. And a similar vision can be applied to public sector. So imagine in our life cycle as Malaysian citizens, from the day we are born to the day we go to school, get married, have kids, and so on and so forth, we interact with easily 15 to 20 government services. So what if we have an Gen AI-enabled app that allows us to do all that? What if we could get our business licenses through just an app where the Gen AI can help us navigate? And it will make our life a lot simpler. And so something closer to this shorter term is we are seeing a lot of customers asking us, can Gen AI make my salespeople a lot better? Of course. Imagine all your salespeople have a super agent to recommend products and to give product information as customers ask, right? So imagine empowering your salespeople to be able to have all product information recommendations at the fingertips whenever a customer asks. And that will raise your customers' experience when they interact with your brand and your product. So that is where we are seeing a lot of interest when it comes to end user experience and customer experience.
Okay, it's a lot of data, right?
A lot of data.
All right, Mr. Azlan.
I just wanted to extend a bit of what Michael just said about customer experience from offering perspective. I would imagine that probably the first level of qualification as a customer, if you're trying to actually look for a product, offering, service, you want to know about the company, you want to know about the services at the high level. And I think that's where AI would be the sweet spot for them to actually understand what is it that that company can offer. But as you know, that human touch still needs to be there to close the deal. And that's where you go for the second qualification, where you actually meet a person to talk about the services and offerings. So that's the two parts of it where I think there would be a good win-win combination between an AI as well as with a human interaction. Yeah. The other part that Michael mentioned was actually regarding the public sector. I think if you look back in time, AI started a lot with chatbots, and chatbots is actually for the service industries. Yeah. And when you're actually dealing with a volume of people, a volume of inquiries, then you actually need something to actually help you so you can actually personalize that service to a particular person. And I think that has worked well for certain service industries as well as for the public sector. But I think it can actually, with the enhancements of AI these days, with the LLMs, you can actually change that from chatbots, just text-based, to a speech-based. Yeah. So we actually be able to actually ask a kiosk, a person on a kiosk, questions about SOPs, questions about procedures to get licenses, etc. And I think that you will actually see that coming quite soon, as we do know that we have the technology capability from an LLM, from a data set perspective. We have the capability from a cloud computing, which can actually handle that massive data. So I think just those two things that I wanted to actually elaborate what Michael said.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question. What role does data privacy play in integrating generative AI with cloud services, and how can enterprises ensure compliance with global data protection regulations? We'll start with Michael.
I get the hard
A lot of questions to you.
So data privacy, data sovereignty, data residency is always a central theme in adopting new technologies, right? In any industry, cloud, Gen AI. One thing that I have always recommended customers to look at is what is the fundamental security architecture in any generative AI or any cloud computing platform that you're using. So in Google, we build this into all our AI services. Let's take an example of the fear that is in the market. Will Gen AI learn my data and then share it with my competitor? Right? If you Google up Samsung and ChatGPT today, you will find out what happened. Yeah? But what we have done in Google is every time a customer uses our generative AI, the AI is frozen. That's what we call a frozen model. We freeze the AI from learning any proprietary data. The only thing that is learning now is the public language models, that's all. So that fundamental security is not something that you can patch on. So go into that a little bit of detail, get your security team, take a look at it, and you will realize that that is intentionally built in to secure data privacy and data security. Yeah, that's number one. Now, number two is what we are seeing a lot of customers doing. They're beginning to take the next level of understanding their data types. There are confidential data for government, and top secret, confidential, and so on and so forth. Understanding the data type is important, and then understanding how cloud platforms secure this data is super critical. So if you take the hyperscalers, right, any of the hyperscalers, for example, Google, we have many platforms that we all love to use, right? Google Search, YouTube, Gmail, Android, Google Play, YouTube. All of these have over 1 billion users at any one time using. And you can imagine the amount of security attacks that is being attempted at any second. So with that wealth of information and wealth of experience in thwarting security threats, you can just check. Any of these platforms, has it been ever hacked? Never. All of that know-hows, managing all these billion user platforms, we actually bring it down to the Google Cloud platform and our generative AI. So that's some of the fundamentals in securing your data, making sure your data is private and you're compliant.
Yeah, you were actually talking about freezing the model, and it doesn't actually use other customers' data for training, right? Would you like to actually expand that? For example, an organization is actually trying to make use of a GenAI LLM. Okay, if they are actually going with the CSP's LLM, that's what you were referring to, correct? How does that work?
Oh, okay, great. So imagine we are all in a bank. Let's take Sazul's domain. We're all in a bank. You have proprietary data. We have everybody's account numbers and all your profiles and all. Now you want to use a Gen AI to enhance your app, for example. So what you need to do, think of AI as a child. Yeah? AI needs to learn. So you want it to learn so that it gives you the right output. So if you teach a child to eat apple and say apple is a chicken, eventually when it sees an apple, it calls it chicken, right? So grounding of the AI is important. So let's say I take CAF Investment Bank's data and ground it on an AI. So the AI will know how to answer very specific questions related to CAF Investment Bank. Now, when I say freeze the model, this LLM is able to give you the output, but this LLM will never learn what CAF Investment Insights is about. That's the difference. So that when our LLM is used by, let's say, Sazul's competitor, it will never be able to produce answers based on Sazul, the CAF Investment Bank's details. That's how it works. Yeah. So I hope that is clear.
Got it. Yeah.
So, sorry, can I add?
Yes,
Right,
please.
Okay. Thank you very much for promoting CAF.
Yes, please, guys. After this, sign up.
I just wanted to touch about from the regulatory perspective, right? And trying to get some brownie points from Ben Negari if they are here as well. But you know, I think our regulators are also looking into this space. I mean, just to share with you all, I mean, for cloud, for example, right? Maybe also to actually, you know, just make it clear to everyone, maybe not from the banking industry, right? So Ben Negara has what we call as a guide. We call it as RMIT, Risk Management in IT, right? So in that guide, it actually tells you from A to Z how to actually manage and govern IT in the banking or financial institution company. So earlier, that was actually, I think, released in year 2000 or 2019, something like that. 2020 and 2019, sorry, right? And earlier, the RMIT doesn't even, don't really talk much about cloud, right? And recently in June 2023, they come up with a new release of RMIT, which include Appendix 10, that talk about cloud specifically, right? So the regulators are also evolving and looking into this space, right? And I'm sure, I don't know which version of RMIT, but sure sooner or later the Gen AI will also be part of that, Appendix 11 maybe, of that RMIT. What does the regulators look at is actually other than data sovereignty, the security, the risk especially, but it's all about what Michael also mentioned just now, right? How we actually make sure that, when we are using data, when you're giving your information to the bank, how does the bank actually manage your data, right? We talk about cloud. When we talk about cloud, we cannot run away from software as a service, SaaS, infrastructure as a service, as well as platform as a service, right? So when you talk about software as a service, there's less control coming in from the banks, but a lot of control going into the cloud providers like Google, our friend over here. My time to promote Google now.
Thank you very much.
Right. So there's a lot of, due diligence that the banks have to do. And the banks are obliged to actually, perform that due diligence and present it back to Bank Negara. So I just wanted to actually, just to be transparent over there, that a lot of things that we are doing as a bank, it's all being regulated and it's all being monitored by the central bank. And we can't really launch something to the public without actually go through them. And what do they assess? They ask us to do the risk assessment based on the RMIT guides that they have. And for each of the clause of the RMIT, we need to actually, provide our assessment. And also, we have to classify the assessment and come up with mitigation action if there is a gap, right? So it's very, very regulated and to make sure that the data is safe and everything is actually safe.
When the cloud journey started, I think we talked about this compliance and country compliance and regulatory compliance, etc. So the example that you were actually given, so let's say it's a new application going into cloud and trying to make use of Gen AI. From practical experience perspective, are you actually expected to submit a separate compliance approval for cloud and also for Gen AI?
Yes, definitely. So we as a digital bank, we are 100% on cloud, right? Not to say we don't have a data center, we leverage on data center that, cloud providers actually, preparing, right? Or offering, sorry. So whenever there's a new service that we need to actually, provide to the customers, right? And if it's actually using cloud services, definitely we actually have to actually present it to Bank Negara, and they actually look at it from the outsourcing perspective. So it is an outsourced services, cloud, right? And software as a service. And we have to perform the risk assessment that I mentioned earlier just now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the last one. Can we actually talk about some examples in your area that has actually used Gen AI, and what are some driving forces in actually using that? Gaurav, you want to actually give some examples?
Of the use cases of Gen AI?
Yes, correct, yeah.
I think earlier I was mentioning one in the ports that way how Gen AI can help look at damaged containers and the liability of those cargo and containers within port. I think there is one very interesting, I also read about how Gen AI can help in the medical field and new drug discovery, right? So, to identify new drugs, there is a long and expensive process which goes through until it's available in the market for use. I think with AI and Gen AI in particular, what's really is happening is you can leverage technology to identify these various salts and their, I think, implications, and really speed up this whole drug discovery time period and cost, which is, I think, massive for humanity, because imagine a drug which comes to market with more time and effort, the cost of the drug also goes up because obviously, the drug owner wants to make sure all the R&D cost is recovered. If technology is used and the cost is much optimized, the benefit to humanity and people is the cost of drug could potentially come down and available in the market much faster is one example comes to mind.
Okay, thank you. Michael, as a CSP, okay, maybe can you throw some examples of
Gen AI.
Gen AI
Yeah.
that's in use?
There's one company, local company. I think they have a booth here as well. What they started first with is an internal chatbot for all their businesses. So the CTO built a portal and allow businesses to build their own chatbot. And very simply, depending on the use case, some want a chatbot to handle regulations. Some want a chatbot to handle RFP responses. Some want a chatbot to understand engineering topics. So the users themselves can actually dump their PDF of the source of truth that they want the AI to train on and then make it available. So now that they have a portal, about 36 chatbots, where any of the users can go in and choose which Gen AI they want to use. Now that is a very common thing. And the more I speak to different customers, whether it's the large enterprises or the smaller ones, everybody's starting with internal chatbot. But why? They want to make information summarizing and getting insights faster to everybody. And that's what a Gen AI does, right? It summarizes for you and gives you the input and output that you like. Rather than you having to go through hundreds and pages of, let's say, RMIT documents or any regulatory documents, get a Gen AI to do it for you. And a new person that joins the company that has no background, you can just chat with a chatbot and they can get up to speed very quickly. So that's one of the many. Yeah, I thought I was just pause.
There are quite a few LLMs and of course there are many use cases. Yeah, thanks for it. Okay, can we actually wrap up the session with just taking one input from each of you, how Gen AI is actually going to help in the cloud infrastructure? Mr. Hazelan.
Thank you. How Gen AI is going to help in the cloud infrastructure?
Yeah.
I think number one, as what we mentioned earlier, in terms of resource allocation or resource optimization, Gen AI will actually be able to analyze the usage and data pattern, and would be able to suggest the most optimal configuration or the most optimal setting for the infrastructure. I think that's one. But if I can actually stray away a bit from that question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I just wanted to actually make a point in terms of how AI is going to affect our lives. If you look at it, AI is already embedded in our lives. When you actually do your shopping through Shopee, Lazada, Google, and all that, there's an AI part of it behind it, right? So AI is there to stay. AI is already embedded part of our life. But what you see these days is actually the enhancements of AI from before. It has actually now AI will be able to actually provide suggestions, predictions from a speech perspective, from a video perspective, rather than just text. Yeah. But the main thing is that any AI that you will actually be implementing has to make sense. It has to actually, number one, improve the customer experience, and number two, help the business in terms of profitability. If it doesn't actually take this two checklists or prerequisites, I think AI will not be, it will not, probably you will need to explore more of how you can actually bring value to you and your company. Yeah. So only then AI will actually be beneficial for you to actually explore further and actually to deepen further. If you look at it at the backdrop of it, what is AI? AI is actually, in a company, you will actually have all the processes, all your data. You have to actually have that as a prerequisite, and before you can actually go AI. So if you don't have the right set of data, you don't have the accurate data to actually do the LLMs on, to actually have your data sets on, you will not get the right outcome. Yeah. So just in terms of an advice, if you wanted to actually embark on AI, make sure that you actually, it increases and enhances your customer experience, make sure that it helps you in terms of profitability of business, and make sure that you actually have the prerequisites such as the data sets, applications, processes. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. It's a good summary. Sazal.
Yeah, I think in very short word, I think AI is going to improve customer experience as well as services, and it will help businesses in terms of monetization and ROI.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just to add to the flip side, which I think also we all should be aware about, is AI, Gen AI is pretty as smart as the data fed into it. So training of data and accuracy of data is important. The other part is, we have not spoken much, at least in this panel, about the bias and the ethical issues and the right use of AI. I think from the revolution point of view, AI and Gen AI brings an inflection point from the industrial revolution to IR 4.0 and further up. I think it has many upsides of using Gen AI in months and years to come. But of course, I think we all need to be aware of the possible issues which can creep in with the biased data and so forth, and ensuring that using the head on our shoulders is still pretty important going forward, not completely relying on technology and Gen AI to give you the answers. I think we as humans still owe to ourselves to make sure technology is used and not considered as the final goal.
Okay, thank you. Michael, quick summary.
Quick one. It depends on what you do. If you're a data center vendor or provider, this is boom time. AI consumes a lot of compute, GPUs, data center resources. Now, if you're running your data center for your company, then this is an opportunity to be able to extend your portfolio to include AI that's running on the cloud as part of your data center operations. And it makes a lot of sense. And what we see, AI is going to impact every facet of business, and that will just add value contribution from your portfolio as a data center owner, runner to your business. Yeah, so that is going to come. We are just at the early stages. It's going to drastically increase in the next 3-4 years. So think about that as an opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I think we talked a lot, and it is actually going to touch all the industries, right? And we talked about finance, sports, and then technology as well. Okay, how it is actually going to help. Okay, with this we'll wrap up, and definitely it is going to help if it is there in the cloud platform, because Michael talked about the GPU, right? If it is a small medium enterprise that wanted to use Gen AI, and if they want to use the large language models, then it is actually best suited if they are running in cloud instead of actually running in their own data center. Otherwise, the investment is actually going to be very high. So with this, we'll actually wrap the session. Okay, thank you, audience.
Thank you.